Grow your law firm through intentional and strategic in-house marketing with Cassidy Lewis, episode 334. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today I'm joined with Cassidy Lewis. Cassidy is the Chief Marketing Officer for Cooper Hurley Injury Lawyers, located in Norfolk, Virginia, as well as their 7 other locations. Cassidy is a marketing leader and strategist, understanding, managing, and experienced in nearly every facet of marketing and sales, communication, digital, social, referral, client experience, direct response advertisement, and several additional strategies. Wow, a lot of stuff we could dig into. At Cooper Hurley Injury Lawyers, she uses her experience and education to further their marketing efforts by leading their marketing department. She has been at the firm for nearly 5 years and loves the legal marketing space.
Thank you so much for having me, Moshe. I appreciate it.
It's absolutely my pleasure. And I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with us. Sometimes we get somebody to talk about marketing, but usually they're a marketing vendor, right? There's like an ulterior motive to getting here on the podcast with us. But you're a CMO in a law firm, right? You're not going to get anything out of this other than sharing your time and knowing that maybe somebody is going to get help from it. And I really appreciate that genuine share that you're bringing to the table today. And I'm excited for hopefully a great conversation.
Absolutely. I am too. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
All right. Now, before we jump in, I like to start with an easy question. But before I do that, just want to share a quick message with our listeners. Folks, if you've been trying to accelerate the growth of your firm and just don't find that it's doing what you expected it to do. For some reason, you're in the same place you were last year right now, or maybe even went backwards. And you wanted to move forwards. Our coaches are standing by to have a conversation with you to help you unlock what might be getting in your way, what might be stopping you from achieving that success. And that coaching call is absolutely free. So if you want to take advantage of that, go to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching, profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. All of the resources shared today will be on the show notes page of profitwithlaw.com, as well as in your podcast description, your podcast player. So you do not have to worry about taking notes and keeping track of the various resources that we share with you. Just go to the resources section of the show notes page, and there you'll find the link that I'm sharing with you right now, profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. We'd love to have a conversation with you and see if we can help you unlock the success of your firm. Cassidy.
Yes.
Our listeners have no idea who you are. And they would love to know more about you. So can you give us the big picture of who is Cassidy Lewis? How did you come about a marketer, a marketing person in a law firm? Tell us a little bit about yourself so that our listeners get to know you.
Sure. So first, my family life, which is most important, is I am married to my best friend, and I play mommy to a very, very busy 6-year-old and even busier 2-year-old. And so if anybody wants to babysit, please let me know. As far as marketing,
we'll put your cell phone number in the show notes so that they can reach out to you and offer those babysitting services. I love that you have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. I have a 6-year-old myself. He just graduated kindergarten. He's going to be going into first grade.
Yes.
And I don't have a 2-year-old, but I have a 7-month-old. No, he's 8 months now, an 8-month-old. So there's one bringing up the rear.
Right.
But I love this age is like the most perfect age to have, like both 6 and 2. Like 2 is like they're just starting to do the fun things,
Right.
and they're just starting to get a mouth. and express their own opinion, which only gets worse from here, right? And then the 6-year-old is just, they're learning so much. They seem like the most brilliant people in the world by how quickly they pick things up, and they're starting to turn into their own personality. And it's such a wonderful, beautiful age. So enjoy every moment of that.
Oh, we are. My husband and I are having an absolute blast. They keep us very busy, but we love every minute of it. We do.
Awesome. So I interrupted you. Keep telling us about Cassidy.
You're fine. So as far as marketing and marketing career, I have been, how old am I? Okay, so I've been marketing now in some facet for about the last 13 years. I got into it by doing campaigns, political campaigns, local political campaigns, and it just grew from there. I ended up leaving. I was at Northwestern Mutual. I was a marketing director there and starting my own marketing agency. Did that for a little while, then wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and then got a call from Cooper Hurley Injury Lawyers. I heard about me from another law firm, and they asked me to come in and be their chief marketing officer. I just thought it was so weird. I was like, they called me. I didn't put in a resume or do an application or anything. Had a few interviews. Loved just the interactions that I was having with the attorneys. I love working and being around intelligent people. And went home, talked to my husband about it, and I've been here ever since. And we're having a blast doing all that we're doing here, because it is a lot.
That's awesome. What does your husband do?
My husband is the Assistant Director of Human Resources for the city of Norfolk. He works across the street.
So I asked you this question because as you're telling this story, I realized that you and I met in person very recently.
Okay. What conference?
You were in New York City for Craig Goldenfarb's
yes.
millionaire
yes,
7-figure attorney thing.
Right.
And we had a whole conversation, and you looked familiar when I saw you, and I was like, I can't place it. I don't know where I met her. But as you're sharing your story, I was like, wait a second, I've heard this story before. And then I remembered that your husband was working for the city, and he wants to get into politics, wants to run for something. So
yes. So when I told your daughter this a little bit ago, she said, yeah, the podcast has been around for about 3 years. And I was like, no, I thought it's been around longer than that. I've seen it, well, whatever. You guys have great marketing. I knew I saw you, but I thought it was just like in passing at a conference. But yes, now we were upstairs
on the rooftop.
Yes. Hi, Moshe.
Sharing drinks.
I didn't want to say that part, but yeah, that's probably why it took us a minute.
Well, it was weird because it was the second night. So we didn't have like a designated area on the rooftop. Like the first night there was like an area that was cordoned off for us. And then the second night it was after dinner. We went back to the rooftop, and we went into an area that we thought like, oh, we're supposed to gather in here. And then we were sitting there having, chatting. And then they were like, oh, everyone is actually over here. So we moved out from there. But anyway, so that's it. What a small world. Okay, great. It's a pleasure to meet you again. It's so embarrassing to do this in public, right?
You called it out. You could have texted.
I did. I know. I thought about it before I even did it. And I say, you know what? Our listeners love this podcast because I don't hide things. Keep it real. Yeah. So it's okay. Like that happens. This happens in real life, right? You meet somebody. I actually had another guest yesterday who I thought that I had just seen at a conference. And I said, didn't I just see you? And it was just like at Max LawCon. And she's like, well, actually, I was at Max LawCon last year, but I didn't go to this past one. So it's, it works both ways. It's our mind plays tricks on us. But listen, I'm human, and I meet a lot of people, and it's always a work in progress to remember people. And but I definitely remember our conversation, and that's what triggered like, okay, we've definitely done this before. There's a little deja vu going on here. Okay, so I love this journey where they found you, and I think that did you ever ask them like what process did you go through to find me? Like, because this is pretty incredible. Like when you're looking for an integral person in your firm to do something, instead of putting out a job posting, go find that person, right? Like
Right.
get handpick who you want to offer the job to, having done your due diligence. So do you have any idea what process
I
they
do
followed to
know.
discover you?
Yeah, I do know. So a year before they called me, I actually interviewed with another law firm.
Mm-hmm.
I put out one resume, right, and got the interview. I was like, oh, okay, because I was just at that weird space where I was like, do I want to stay at home? Don't want to go back. Don't want to go back to my marketing firm, which I sold the book of business. I'd be starting from scratch. All those questions. And they had a good amount of interviews, and it came down to me and another marketer, and the other marketer got the job. And so they called me like, you did amazing. It was just, almost a vote or whatever it was. And so that was that. And then a year later, my boss, our managing attorney, Jim Hurley, put it out there to his group of attorneys. It was actually Great Legal Marketing, which is an attorney marketing group, GLM, and said, hey, I'm looking for a marketing director. I don't think they put out a post or anything, but they wanted resumes of people that, they knew.
Mm-hmm.
And the attorney said, yes, I have a girl. His name is Kellum. And it was crazy. I see him all the time. He's a great guy. He said, I have a girl. She interviewed well. Her resume is amazing, all these things. And he called me, Jim. Well, he had a paralegal call me to set up the interview. But it was just the irony of that. A law firm that I didn't get the job referred me to what's been the longest and best place of business I've ever worked with or worked for. So yeah, that's how they found me.
It's there's no greater proof that every law firm needs to focus on referrals all the time, because you never know who knows who and who knows what and when it's going to come up. And, like, you need to have your name out there, and you need to have people out there hitting the pavement for you. I know that this is not getting a client. It's even more important getting a staff member. But you gotta always just believe that, you put in an application a year before.
Right.
This is a year later that initial effort is bearing fruit. And it just goes to show that you never know what impression you're going to make that is going to ultimately drive something to you that you might not have had otherwise.
Right.
So I love that anecdotally, and I love your story. It's just, it's amazing. But I do want to dive into your genius, right? Like, clearly, you know what you're doing with marketing. Clearly, you're good at what you do. CMO role. A lot of our listeners don't have a CMO, right? And the biggest confusion in the marketplace is that when marketers are selling you their bill of services, they're offering you what they have. And what they have might actually not be the best thing for you. And the biggest challenge that our listeners have is navigating, where should I be putting my marketing dollars? Where should I be putting my marketing efforts? There's so much out there. Like, I can beef up my website. I can focus on SEO. I can pay for ads. I can do pay-per-click. I can do Facebook ads. I can abandon all of that and focus on video and create a YouTube channel and go the content route, or what I'm doing here, a podcast. Or we can focus on social and try to grow our social organically. I just had an interview today, folks, I batch record my interviews. But 2 interviews ago, earlier today, I had Brendan Ruane on, Jay Ruane's brother. And that conversation was entirely focused on social media marketing and organically growing your Facebook page or your social media presence. So the first question that I want to ask you is, how should somebody who doesn't have a CMO, who doesn't understand all the different nuances, how do they know where to start?
I have so many things to say about this. And it starts with the understanding that in the legal marketing space, like, vendors, businesses know that lawyers make good money. Right. And we're an injury law firm, especially us. We get large multi-million-dollar settlements. They know what that means. So the attorneys just get almost attacked, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they mean any harm, but you have these vendors that just say, hey, I can do it all for you. And it's not true.
Right.
Like, I think one of the things that I bring here to Cooper Hurley Injury Lawyers is that I've been a vendor, essentially, right? I own a marketing agency. And so I know that it's impossible for a vendor to give any company the attention that they need because they have other customers. But there are a few different starting points to figure out what type of, if you don't have a CMO, don't have the ability to hire a CMO or a marketing director or even a marketing assistant, which I think that you should. But going with what you naturally do well, right? So if you shouldn't be hiring a company that does video marketing and you hate being on video, that's not the space that you should be going in. You shouldn't be hiring a company that's going to do all your social media marketing if you hate social media and you don't plan to be a part of it. Any company that tries to sell you a social media campaign and you're not at the forefront of it, you need to run. So I think like when attorneys or law firms start to figure out where I should be putting my marketing dollars, where do you like to be in marketing first? That's first, especially for the solos out there. That's first. If you really enjoy client services and referral marketing and things like that, focus your efforts there first. It's not that you won't branch out, right? Focus your efforts there first. And then start to look at the places where you're interested in or like to do, but maybe don't have the capability. So hey, I really think we should have a website, right? I really think we should be getting some more internet leads, but you know that you don't know anything about SEO. Okay, we'll move on to a trusted vendor that handles SEO, that specializes in SEO. It should not be your TV ad company that also does SEO, right? But moving with a vendor that specializes in what you are looking for, I think is also a great space. So those are my two, right? Starting off with something that you actually enjoy, like, and will participate in. And then something that you don't have the capability to do. It's not your niche, it's not your thing. And making sure that that vendor specializes in that area and is trusted.
I love that. I love starting with something that you love, that you enjoy, that you actually would be dialed into. That's a really good piece of advice for our listeners. And then obviously, you want the vendor to be on board with that. So if you're not going to be running ads, don't go to a vendor that their primary business is running ads for businesses, right? It just doesn't make any sense. So it might even be, self-explanatory, but we need to spell it out because you may not realize that the vendor you're talking to, that's their specialty. And what you need to do is when you have these conversations is to just ask them straight out, like, what is your specialty? What are you known for? What is what is the thing that you do for 90% of your clients?
Right.
And if that's not what I'm looking for, that's the end of the conversation. Move on to the next one. You
Right.
could ask them for a reference. You could say, hey, do you know a marketing agency who primarily does social media for law firms? Because that's clearly not your bread and butter. And I don't want to waste your time with something that's not the right fit, but maybe you have a vendor that you send work to that you can send me to.
Right.
So always ask for that referral, but don't make the mistake of going down, deep into the conversation of what your needs are before you establish that this vendor does do what I need them to do. Now, one thing that I've been pushing my clients to do before they even spend money on marketing, like even if you already have a marketing budget, you're already paying a marketing vendor, there's something that's a forgotten trait, forgotten source of revenue, forgotten source of leads, and that's your own referral network. And really focusing on your own referral network and not forgetting that even your competition is your referral network, right?
Yes.
Even like
Yes.
you're a personal injury firm, there's a personal injury firm down the road who maybe they're conflicted out of a case, or maybe it's a case that's too big for them, or maybe it's a case that's too small for them. And if you have a relationship with them, they're likely to send that to you. And the same works the other way around, right? You have a relationship with them and now you have something you can't handle. You're likely to bring them in. You're likely to send it to them. So don't forget about all the referral side of it, that's possible with, and there's three main referral partners, right? There's other attorneys, there's other professionals who come in contact with your client. So depending on what your practice area is, well, if it's injury, then maybe it's chiropractors and doctors, right? If it's family law, then maybe it's psychologists and family therapists. But really hone in on that referral network of people who are the step before somebody needs to come to you, who's going to be interacting with your client. And the third is your past clients, your family and friends, right? So let me ask you this, Cassidy, in your firm, what is your marketing department doing proactively, specifically around referrals?
All of it, everything we possibly can. So you just said something that was so important, that your competition can be your be a referral source. I believe it was 2021. Our biggest case for the year came from our competition. Somebody 15 minutes down the road, all they do is PI, like we do PI, but we do railroad. A lot of attorneys don't do railroad. We do railroad. Beautiful, huge referral check, huge referral check. So I'll talk a little bit about attorney referral marketing first. So we put, instead of just, hey, maybe I'll send you something, maybe you'll send me something, we really built a plan for attorney marketing. So much so that it's actually a separate document. The attorney marketing plan is a separate document because it is that 80-20 rule for the most part for our revenue, where about 20% of the cases are referred to by attorneys, and they can easily make up 80% of the profit or the revenue for the year. So one, we did some research around it. Who are our top referral partners? Who knows them in the office? What type of cases are they referring to us? Are they actually opens or are they just intakes? Are they sending us, we don't handle medical malpractice, for example. Are they just like chucking us all the crap? And then we built several different campaigns. So we have ads, we have LinkedIn ads, we have ads in our local and statewide Virginia lawyer publications. We talk about the amount of referrals that we send out. We talk about the checks that we write. Hey, we just wrote, and this is the next one coming up, we just wrote a referral, an attorney friend, a $1.2 million referral fee check, right? It's so funny because we started doing that and now all of our friends are doing it as well. But we send out, we have a specific mailing plan and email plan, text campaign. We market to them almost like their clients. And I mean with the level of due diligence. Mm-hmm. One thing that we did, one thing that I believe attorneys need is more structure around how they're going to connect with their attorney friends. So we created something called Next 4, where look at the attorneys in your address book maybe, or your phone book that you know, but haven't referred us a case or haven't referred us a case in years, or you want to build a better relationship with. And these 4 attorneys are going to be the 4 that you pay attention to throughout the year. It might be a text message that you send that say, hey man, how are your 6 babies? It might be them cutting out results out of the Virginia Lawyers Weekly and saying, great result. It could be, we're going to go eat, we're going to go get a drink. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be work related. One attorney the other day fixed a PDF form for an attorney, whatever it is. But these are the 4 that you're going to connect with at least once a quarter. I think giving them that structure helped so much. We do some things too. I tell them, like, we're their aide, the marketing department. So one of those quarters, we sent all of the attorney friends a sweatshirt and a beer glass from the school that they graduated from. We'll send them a cookout apron or, little stuff. But the real building of the relationship, it definitely comes from the attorneys and those check-ins and those emails and whatever that looks like. So that the attorney referral marketing takes up a good amount of our time, effort, and energy, and it's worth every bit of it. As far as client referrals, we focus on, or database referrals just in general. It's another space where we pay a lot of attention to. I'm a firm believer that you hear a lot of marketing and advertising firms talk about your unique value proposition, you know, your UVP, your USP, whatever it is. I'm not mad at it, but I think the one thing that we have that no other injury firm has are our clients. That's the one thing we have. Like, most people don't get in multiple accidents. Like, and if they do, they'd come back to us. Like, that's our one unique thing. And we try our best to spoil them. We focus a lot from the legal side on client experience. I have a director of client services here. But we looked at the full customer journey, and we put in pockets of places where the marketing department reaches out for the legal team. So at 3 months, they get a movie night gift box, has movie candy, popcorn, and a blanket. And it says, you know, we know these past few months have been rough on you, take the night off. We get, I don't know how many thank you cards, text messages. 6 months, we do a survey. It is by team. The survey is anonymous. The person picks their team and then talks good, bad, or in between. I will say for the first 6 months of this year, we have no one stars. So I'm excited about that. At 9 months, we sent a box of sunshine. Again, we looked at some research, like, where are our clients starting to get antsy? Where are they starting to, you know, where's my money? Like, what are we doing? And again, that comes from the legal team. And then cases close around a year or so. But then, like, a year after, we send them what we call a settleversary gift. After we gotten their settlement, I found out that from doing testimonials, clients that are in really bad accidents, especially, they remember that date, right? They remember the date they got in the accident. They remember the date that they narrowly escaped death. So we try to create celebration for the date that it was all over. Also, like, we settled your case June 22nd, 2022, a year ago. We're just here to celebrate it. We're just here to, you know, and all these things, like, some of them we ask for referrals in there, but we don't always have to. Like, I do random check-ins with our VIP clients. I call about 15 or 20 a month. And I just, hey, you need anything from us? Cassidy, I know every time I get anybody that needs you, but I have them call Cooper Hurley. Like, they know whether we ask for it or not. So we make some very concerted, very intentional efforts those are our two primary referral sources, those attorneys and then former clients.
You know, I really love, I love so much about this. And oh my gosh, there's so many different places to dive into. But first of all, let me just say, folks, if you haven't been taking notes, I mean, there's just been so many ideas that Cassidy just shared with you, that, I mean, really mind blowing. Have you read the book Get Referrals Without Asking by Stacey Brown Randall?
I have not.
So she basically developed a system of establishing a relationship with somebody and then continuing that relationship throughout the year, very similar to what you just laid out, where basically she identifies this idea of touch points, and every touch point has a different value. Like, an email to somebody is not as valuable as a gift to them. A gift to somebody is not as valuable as an in-person meeting with them. And basically what you want to do is you want to identify who your referral touch points are, who your referral partners are. And then you want to have a system to have these touch points throughout the year. And you want to make it scalable so that you can enhance how, you know, who it's going to. So you want to have, like, your emails and your cards that you're sending out and your gifts that you're sending out. You want that to be personalized, but at the same time, something that you can do in mass, do it once, and you knock out your whole list at the same time. And then there's the in-person stuff, like that kind of stuff where it's a call or a meeting or, you know, a get together of some kind. That's a lot harder to do. You want to make sure you're not putting too many of those on. So I really love that you've got those four, I forgot what you call it, your four people, your four attorneys.
Oh, next four.
Your next four. Mm-hmm. I love that idea. The next four. It reminds me of Russell Brunson's Dream 100 that he talks about, where you identify the 100, you know, clients you want to get, or 100 businesses you want to get, you know, do business with. And then you really focus on those 100. I love that focused four, because it allows you to have permission to not focus on the others.
Right.
And this way you have the opportunity to really develop that relationship with these four, which then naturally takes a life of its own. So the next year, when you're focusing on four more, it's not like, oh, I'm forgetting about the other four. It's, I don't need to focus on it as much. I can still continue that relationship. And because I spent a year on it, it's natural for me to just want to keep in touch and want to,
Right.
so I don't have to do all that work again. But then what you're doing with your clients with all these different reasons to send them something that makes sense, and it's on a cadence, and it's like very specific about how you're doing it. I love so much about that. I love the thought that went into it. I love the structure around it, that it's systemized, that you're gonna, like clockwork, you're gonna send this out. And who doesn't like getting a gift?
Right.
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 I mean, like I've been on the receiving end. I mean, sometimes, and I'm not telling you to do this, but sometimes people are a guest on the show and all of a sudden a gift shows up a few days later. They sent me something. It was completely unnecessary. I don't expect it. I don't want it. I'm not sending them a gift for being on the show, although we should. But at the same time, it feels nice to get a gift,
Right.
even if half the gifts are something that's going to, like, I've got some thing of chocolate on my desk that's got things in it, right? Send me chocolate without things in it.
Right.
but
Right.
it's still sitting on my desk, right? I'm not going to eat it, but maybe somebody else will come in here and eat it.
But you appreciate it.
But I appreciate the fact that they thought about it, that they sent me something, that I got a box that I needed to open, or more importantly, I got a box that my son came running in and said, "Daddy, can I open this?" And and he got to open it. So it's, all of these things, they're genius. And one of the things I want to lean into is, somebody who's sitting there listening to this, they're like, wow, this is really cool. But they're doing this because they have a CMO, right? You're a person, Cassidy. How did you come up with these ideas? Like, what can they do to start to think like you?
You may not like my answer.
You're going to say it wasn't you?
Some of a good majority, because some of them got started before I even had my team, but it's usually me or my team. I will say that my boss has given me that permission and that space. He's very thank you oriented. When I got here, he said, "I want to be known as a thank you firm." And I was like, "Huh?" He said, "You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out, but I want to be known as a thank you firm." I was like, "What?" And so that came with a lot of things. Like, if you're a client, Moshe, and I'm your paralegal, if I find out that you had a bad day, I can say, "Hey, Cassidy, or hey, marketing, send him an edible arrangement, or send him chocolate without stuff in it. He loves chocolate without stuff in it." So he really did kind of change my mind frame for that. But my answer to that is that it is much more difficult to be an attorney and handle cases and then try to do marketing as well. There has to be an investment, a real investment in marketing, which includes somebody in-house that is dedicated to your marketing. It's one thing that my partners did very well. We have 7 lawyers and we have 5 marketers here, 5 full-time marketers here. But having somebody that's just dedicated to thinking about the marketing, because there's so much that can be done. Marketing shouldn't be an afterthought. Not if you want to grow your law firm. It can't be an afterthought. It can't be, I have these 3 cases to work on. Oh, and by the way, let me sit and figure out how I can thank my clients. I get that when you start out, it's difficult and all of that. But I mean, I wouldn't trust my plumber to give me open heart surgery. You know what I mean? Like, having somebody that, no matter how smart they are. And I think that's one thing about attorneys, they're so intelligent, and they could, if that's all that they could do, that's all that they did, they could be great marketers possibly. But having somebody in-house that is dedicated to the marketing, can coordinate your vendors, can think of all these ideas, can do all the research, I think it's the best move to make.
Yeah, I love that. And I have, by the way, I have 2 perfect examples of attorneys who are marketers, but they're the marketer. They're not the attorney.
Right.
Seth Price is one of them. He owns Blue Shark Digital. He has a partner who does the legal work. And I mean, now he's got a ton of attorneys working for him too. But when they started, it was him and his partner, and he focused on intake, marketing, and sales, and his partner focused on legal delivery. Right. So even though he's an attorney and he can very well go and practice law, he chose to focus on this side of building his business. And then the other one is Jordan Ostroff. And again, he's got his wife who's his partner, and she's focusing on the delivery of law, and he's focusing on wearing Hawaiian shirts at various events, right? So there are definitely examples of attorneys who have stepped into the marketing role, but that's all they do.
Right.
And you will not find a legal event that Seth Price is not attending, right? But if he was the lawyer, he wouldn't be able to be out there doing all of that, right? So it's a really good point that you're making, that you really need to invest in your marketing. And you highlighted that it could be challenging for somebody early in the journey, right? How can you afford a marketer? But notice that Cassidy shared with us that their ratio is almost 1-to-1. They almost have one marketer for every attorney in the office, which means that if you're the attorney in the office, you should have a marketer, side by side with you. Now, I coach law firms, and I never looked at it like this. I'm going to be upfront, transparent with you, Cassidy. I'm not pushing my clients to hire a marketer. So this is new territory for me, and I'm learning as we're having this conversation. It's really making me think about whether this is something that I should be considering having them do. But I will tell you that part of the conversation that we have is that of understanding that it costs money to run your firm and to build it and grow it. And you have to have the resources to do that. You can't start a firm with $100 because that's how much it costs to create a website, have an email address and a phone line with Zoom, and expect that you're going to be in business, right? It's going to be a long, tough road if that's the road you take. Rather, you should go get a loan or take out some money from a savings account or whatever it is, and start to invest in the growth of your firm from day one. And if you hired a marketing person on day one and you focused on delivery of legal services, or even more importantly, if you hired a marketing person and an attorney and you focused on relationships and growing the firm that way, you can move the needle so much faster. You can, literally in 12 months, you can have, a $500,000 to $1 million firm, no matter what your practice area, if you fill those two roles on day one when you started.
Yeah.
And I really think that there's a limiting thinking like this, thinking like, oh, I'm not ready for that.
Right.
You're only not ready because your bank account says you're not ready.
Right. And I think people expect, I've gotten this call, like cold calls, like, how do I hire you? I'm like, hi, I'm Cassidy. But I've gotten this call, and experience does a lot. But I worked as an intern. I've been a part-time marketer. I've gotten paid a lot less. You still have those people that can come in and maybe do 20 hours, maybe do whatever it is, or maybe you find a local marketing person. Because I feel, even though I was a vendor, I gave my clients a lot of attention, where I was what they call the IT world does this a lot, but a partial CMO. And so I would literally go to my clients' offices and work in their office for 10 hours a week, however it was split up. There are options. You just have to be open to it, to say, I can't do all the marketing. I can't.
Right. And and especially when you start thinking about all the different things that really need to be done when it comes to marketing, right? Like if you want to have a true presence out there, then you need to be doing all the things, right? You need to be having some sort of content strategy.
Yeah.
You need to have some sort of paid strategy. You need to have some sort of way of starting to rank in SEO. And you can't hit all those points at once. And if you start outsourcing all those to outside agencies, that's also an option, but that's going to cost you a lot of money also. So what if you just stuck somebody into that role and had them be doing all the things for you? And that, I think that's even a lot to ask of one individual, but it's definitely, you'll get a lot more out of one person in-house than trying to outsource all of this to a bunch of marketing agencies.
I agree. 100% coordinating. If you attempt to get 3 and 4 vendors by itself, coordinating them alone is so much. We work with a good amount of, we work with Blue Shark. We work with a good amount of vendors. Coordinating them could be a full-time job. Absolutely. So yeah, I agree. It's figuring out what that formula for your firm looks like between somebody in-house, vendors, and your dedication would be very helpful.
Okay, now I'm curious because you said you have 5 people on your marketing team. What are they all doing?
Okay, so it's 5 including me. So I'm the chief marketing officer. I lead the department. I have a creative coordinator. She is primarily over design, videography, photography, and she produces content. I have a digital marketing specialist. He was recently hired about 2 weeks ago, in part because I was doing a lot of it and my boss wants me to be in front of people. He does social media, a lot of the technical SEO stuff. So we have Blue Shark, but digital is so big that it's important for us to have somebody in-house as well. I have Jimmy, who's our marketing assistant. He handles a good amount of research that we do. I'm a firm believer in research and different, we're introducing them to different pieces of marketing. And then I have a director of client services that I talked about earlier that handles anytime a client needs a gift, any of those things, as well as she does a lot of the community service coordination. So things that we do out in the community, usually I just show up. She's, done all the legwork to find the organization and all the pieces that go with it.
Talk to me about this community involvement. I'm very curious about that because that's something that like a lot of people don't talk about, but it's a huge untapped potential to really get your firm out there. I remember sitting in the 7-figure attorney event that Craig put on. And Craig was up there talking about what they do, and he did this. I don't know if you were in the room at that talk where he talked about this box that they give out. I forgot what he calls it. He has a name for it, but anyway, they give out this box that has like their branded thing that goes in the glove compartment for your insurance card, and it has their in print and color newsletter that they send out, and it also has like like a little instruction sheet of how to refer business to our firm, kind of thing. But anyway, during that talk, he was giving ideas of how they interact in the community and how they drum up business. And he said one of the things that they do that anybody can think of doing this, because it's really a very low cost, high reward item, is to sponsor a scholarship.
Oh yeah.
Because what happens is if you do a scholarship in the community, you have all these kids who apply. Not everyone's going to get the scholarship, but anyone who applies, their parents are actively involved in this process. They are now, your firm is visible to them. So it's not, it really doesn't cost a lot to give, you can give a $2,000 scholarship, a $5,000 scholarship, but now all of a sudden you've got, 200-300 applicants for one scholarship, or maybe you're giving away a few of them. And all of those people are actively engaged in your firm. You now have their mailing address. You can send them stuff. You can, so it's just it's one of these like genius moves that, sometimes I'm sitting in the room and I hear something like that. And, one of my jobs in supporting law firms and having this podcast and everything is to be a curator, right? Like I need to take all these different things I hear and have them in my database to throw at somebody when like, oh yeah, this is the perfect thing that you need. So my mind was blown when I heard that, because I would have never in a million years thought of that idea on my own. But it's genius. So what are you doing in the community? Talk to me about that.
Sure. So again, having somebody in-house is so helpful. So my partners have always had this heart for giving, and didn't even know how much they were giving, and not like didn't care, but just if somebody was to ask them for money at church, whatever it was, here, write them a check. Sure, absolutely. Any staff member that wants to donate to a community organization, just send the email. Absolutely. Love it. However, there has to be strategy behind it. So there were a few different things that we did. The first is we created a name for it. So it's Cooper Hurley Injury Lawyers Cares, right? So that's all of our branded material. So it doesn't feel cold coming from a law firm, right? There's a cares and a heart, all those things. That's one. We also decided on sort of a focus. So our focus is on education and youth-based initiatives, right? And we did that for a few different things. One, in injury law, as you know, anybody can be in a bad accident. We went with our natural market are African-American women in one of the cities that we're near. And I said, well, we got to be mindful. And if you're in marketing, you cannot be afraid to talk demographics. But I told my partners, your 5 white men, our demo, our natural market are African-American women. We're not going to pander to them. They're like, no, we don't want to. So one thing that is all inclusive is education and youth-based initiatives like the scholarship. We have a few different scholarships. But another thing that we focus on is to get in front of influencers, right? And so it's not just handing a check to that organization. One of the campaigns that we do is called Vote for a Cause. We have Vote for a Cause and Vote for a School. And so Vote for a Cause, and it just ended, is where we have the community members vote for their favorite community organization. Nothing big, right? So I don't necessarily want these national organizations. I want local organizations. And either from the founder or from the community members, the founder finds out, right? And they start to share it on Facebook. It starts to go viral, all the everything in Hampton Roads. And this year was our biggest year. It tripled from last year. And why we did that is we want to be in front of the community influencers. The organizations that win have the most support, right? They have the most support from the community. These are the people that we want. I want to be in front of the founder, and I want to be in front of people that are involved in the community. All of those people have influence, and then we dump them into our database and they get marketed too. And we do the same thing for Vote for a School. One thing about our scholarships, love the students, we're going to give that money away. But also I want to be in front of the principals. So we make sure I try to go meet with as many principals as we can. We do videos with them. They get specific emails, they get phone calls. Being in the community has to have strategy behind it. And there is nothing wrong with just giving money away. But if you're looking to grow your business, if you're looking to grow your law firm, there has to be some strategy behind it. This year we're dedicating $100,000 to Hampton Roads. We gave out a little over 100 last year, but being able to say, this is what we're doing, we're marketing something that we're already doing. It's right. Beautiful. The community loves to hear it. So yeah, we do a lot. We do a lot.
And it makes it much more impactful when you're able to sum it into a number that makes it much bigger than just, oh, here's a $5,000 scholarship, right. Here's a $10,000 donation, those things are great. But when you add it together and say, hey, we're actually giving $100,000 to the community, we're giving back, it creates that goodwill, right? It's not just the name. Right. Yeah. Your name is front and center. People they now know the name of the firm. It's the first thing that comes to mind if they do get into an accident, but they also know that this is a firm that gives back to the community. Who would they rather do business with?
Right.
Them or somebody else who they have no idea, the money is going to pay for their yacht. Right.
Right.
And this might be going to pay for his yacht. I don't know, but it's also going back to the community. Right.
Right. Right. Yeah. The humanizing of our attorneys, and our attorneys are humans. They are real, people that tell all the terrible dad jokes and just all the everything. But it was also part of our bigger campaign from my side, not from their side. They were given from their heart, but from my side, to just make sure that people know that the clients know that Hampton Roads knows that, our attorneys are real people, real regular people.
I'm going to switch gears for a second and cover a question that came up for me earlier, but it just popped back into my brain now. And that is, I know that you have a whole thing around client services and client services marketing. We discussed the gift giving that you do and all of that. What are you doing specifically to drive reviews like on Google and stuff like that, that for a lot of law firms, that really makes a difference of why somebody would pick up the phone and call them versus somebody else. And also you have, I think, 7 locations, 8 locations, 7 plus your headquarters. Each location has its own reviews, right? So how do you navigate that? Do you put any focus on it? What's the strategy or plan there? And is that something that anybody listening can incorporate and do?
Sure. So having 8 locations is definitely a hurdle, where a competitor may have 500 reviews at one location, will have 200 at one, 300 at another, 100 at a different one. It's a hurdle. So I'm big on, what's the quote? What you measure gets managed. Is that the quote? And so I may be misquoting it, but it's just the idea that if you begin to measure it, it will grow.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a review board, and this was my boss's idea, the review board. We always measured how many reviews we got, but we have a review board, and it has every legal team, how many cases they closed, and how many reviews they got for the month. And their goal is to get 65% of reviews from the cases they closed, right? And we have, again, one thing that is missed in marketing sometimes is a system. So we have a very simple system, I think. So when cases get closed, if the clients come to pick up the check, my director of client services pops in and says, "Hey, would you like to leave us a review?" 9 times out of 10, they say yes. And so she'll tell them to go to one thing that law firm should do is create a domain. So don't try to walk them through, go into your Google My Business. Have something that pops up with all 5 stars, and all they have to do is type. So we have cooperhurleyreviews.com and reviewcooperhurley.com that go to one of our Google My Businesses. She'll tell them to go to cooperhurleyreviews.com, and she'll say, "Hey, leave us 5 stars if you like, and just tell us why you love us." Let's say that check gets mailed. Well, that same director of client services calls them about the time that the check arrives. If they don't answer or don't leave a review right then, she sends them a text message a week later. If they don't reply then she sends them an email. And then every 6 months, we look at all the people that still hadn't left a review in the last 6 months, and then they get called, text messaged, and email again. We also encourage the staff to put it at the bottom of emails. If a client is just really happy, you can say, "Hey, that's everything to me that you feel that way. I'm gonna put you on hold. I'm gonna have somebody from my marketing team hop on the phone and tell you how you can leave us a review. My boss will see it. It means everything." We do have a review contest, and I'm sure everyone has heard about all of those things, but we just have built a very simple system around it to make sure. And we get usually about 50 to 60% of cases we close, we get reviews on.
Do you always wait for the case to close before you ask for the review? Because there's so many opportunities in the client engagement process where the client is just thrilled with the service they're getting, the communication they're getting. Like at different points, the client has this moment of euphoria about their relationship with you. Are you harnessing that and trying to get the review early rather than waiting for the case to close?
The system is built around when the case closes, or when they're told the settlement, right? Because that's the one time we can guarantee that euphoric moment.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is still encouraged that legal teams ask for a review or tell us to ask for a review throughout the case.
Mm-hmm.
The system, like I said, the system is built around that. But I agree that it could be, when they get those gift boxes, sometimes they'll call and thank the legal team member. There are, 30 instances where all of it matters. We'll tell the legal teams, if a client replies to an email and tells them that they're amazing, reply back, "Listen, thank you so much. Again, my boss would love to see that. If you could go to cooperhurleyreviews.com and say it, that'd be great." But I agree with you. I really do.
Yeah, awesome. And you have this domain name that you're sending them to. Behind the scenes, is this domain name automatically rotating between the locations? Like how are you getting the 8 locations to get these reviews?
So we switch it out every month. So our Virginia Beach location is tied to our LSAs. So that when Cooper Hurley reviews stays there. ReviewCooperHurley.com rotates every month or every other month to a different location. And we have to be mindful of it because you don't want, it could be 6 months, 7 months before a location gets a review. But I have found is that every month, all of them get something because the client will know how to do a Google review and they'll just Google us and the closest one will pop up.
Mm-hmm.
So we're mindful of that as well.
Yeah, I've heard from marketers that the velocity of the reviews has a lot to do with the algorithm also. So you have to be mindful and careful about not dumping too many reviews on one location too quickly, and then going dormant for a while.
Right.
So it's interesting that you have this cadence of 1 or 2 months before you switch it to the next site, and that's working for you. That's good information to know, because when I'm thinking, I hear somebody say that, I'm thinking like, oh, it needs to be like we have to get one review every few days. It's not really, we're not talking about in days, we're talking about months and things like that. Is the time frame that you want to see that happening. Yes, very, very interesting stuff. Unfortunately, we're almost out of time, and this is just such a great conversation. And I've learned so much from everything that you've shared. One thing that stuck out in my mind when Craig Goldenfarb did his 7-figure attorney event, and apparently I'm doing a lot of promoting for Craig today on his his event. But one of the things that he talked about was how he incentivized his staff by getting a food truck to come into the office and just provide food for everybody. And he said it's amazing, the food truck cost him like $5,000, and it's amazing how much they're willing to do to be able to get that food truck. Do you have incentives for the team to meet these criteria, to meet the reviews, or to do other things that they get rewarded on? And what are you doing as that incentive? Like, what are you providing as a reward?
So yes, we have different contests in-house. Most of the time we give money. And that came from doing our employee surveys and them saying the gift card is nice, but I just like cold hard cash. We do. I'm also the person. I'm on the leadership team as well. Sort of my other duty other than CMO, and I've been unofficially tasked with handling a lot of the company culture events. So we'll do something like a thank you. We have a thank you party mid-year every year where we bring a food truck and we'll play The Settlement is Right. I make up these really corny, really terrible games and the Unsung Legal Hero Award and different things. So we definitely have contests that help them reach these goals. And then we also have a bonus structure that is unofficially tied to making sure that everybody meets their goals every month.
Got it. One thing that was interesting in a conversation that I had with Molly Hall from Hiring and Empowering Solutions, she said that, and it's interesting because you surveyed your staff and they said that they want cold hard cash. What she said was that you can't assume what makes your people tick. She had a client that thought that they, in order to incentivize their staff to meet certain goals, that they would have to provide a significant amount of money, because you can't give a small amount of money, right? Like if you give too little, then it's almost like, well, this is more like a slap in the face than a reward, right? Yes. So they thought that there was a lot of money that they had to tie to this. But when they surveyed the team said that what they wanted as their incentive primarily was time off. What they wanted was to have half a Friday in the summer, right? Like give us half day Fridays for the summer as a reward. So I think that it's important that people don't forget, like when you do incentives, it could be financial, it could be, there are other things you can provide like time, right, or perks at the office, like food trucks or parking spots or, gym memberships. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do where it's no longer tied to a dollar amount, but you're doing a thing or an experience instead. So I love the idea of thinking about giving away days, right? Like, okay, if you reach this, this metric or whatever, you're going to get an extra 3 vacation days to use throughout the year whenever you want. And then, although that has a monetary value, it's a lot less palatable to the person that it's like, oh, they're giving me money. But they're going to know those 3 days when they have them. Right. So,
Right.
yeah. So it's just some ideas for our listeners on other things that you can do. But I love that you do have that mid-year thank you party. I love that. And I love this idea that, the owner of the firm wants to be known as the thank you firm. I think it speaks to what his primary love language is. If you know the book, The 5 Love Languages, and then there's a business version of that book. But it's important to know what your language is, because you might not relate to this whole thank you culture, that he's running with his firm, but know what yours is.
Right.
And dive into that, make that what your firm is known for. Attend a free coaching session with one of our coaches, and you can get there at profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. So I invite you to take advantage of that. There's really no strings attached, even though there is an opportunity to join our program at the end. There's no pressure. There's no obligation. We're not a high pressure sales team. If it's for you, great. If not, also great. So take advantage of that free coaching session and go to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. This has been a great conversation. I don't know why didn't I invite you onto the show when I was sitting next to you? Maybe I did. Maybe that's how we got connected. I don't know.
I don't know, Moshe. I don't know.
But we did it now.
That's what counts.
All right. When we wrap up the show, what I like to do is I like to ask you to leave one lasting piece of advice to our listeners. So, and then after that, if they want to get in touch with you, if you want to share any sort of contact information, or if they want to refer a case to you, how would they do that? We'd love to help you or help them in the process.
Okay. So my one piece of advice is going to be a reiteration of what we talked about throughout. And that would be to take the leap and hire an internal marketing person. Figure out what it is that you need the most, figure out what it is that could free up your time the most, and look for a marketer that has that skill set. If you'd like to get in touch with me, especially for referrals, absolutely. We give outstanding referral fees. Give me a call at 757-333-3333. If you ever want to talk marketing shop, I love this stuff. I'll be at PILMA next week talking marketing strategy. I do travel to different conferences. I'll be at Seven Figure Attorney next year with my most hated Duke friend, Craig. I'm a UNC fan. But you can also email me at clewis@cooperhurley.com. I'm always willing to, like I said, talk shop, take questions, all that stuff.
Awesome. I absolutely love it. And Cassidy, I am sure that we're going to be seeing more of you, whether it's a repeat episode, a sequel to the episode, or as a speaker at our Law Firm Growth Summit. Really excited to have met you today. And this has just been a fun conversation. I think our listeners will love it. And right now they're at the end of this episode. I think that they did love it. Folks, if you go to the show notes page, profitwithlaw.com, you will find all the resources that were mentioned, including Cassidy's phone number. You can call her, refer cases to her, pick her marketing brain, whatever it is that you want. She's given it. It's going to be out there in the internet for anybody to find. But we really do appreciate her time today. And since you loved this episode, if this is your first time tuning into this podcast, make sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player so you get notified every time we release a new episode. And do one thing. Tell a friend. Share this episode with one person that you said, hey, if I love this. I think so-and-so is going to love this too. Just send them a quick text. There's a little, like in your podcast player is a little upload button. You can just click that and text it to somebody, send them the link. If each person who listens to this sends it to one person, that can have a massive effect on the time we just spent together to create this for you, on how many more people we can help in the process. And Cassidy has really shared some awesome stuff. So we'd love it if you would share it as well. Thank you so much. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.